get it. I genuinely don't get it. But let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to the next one from Miguel. Mr. Miguel, let's run the camera. Let's run the clip.
I can't have us finishing third because there's a clip going around of me saying if we finish third, sack Arteta.
Right. What would you then if we come third?
Honestly, context changes everything, Dan.
What? Let's have this out. Let's have this out then, because I still don't get where this comes from. You said this is what you've said at the start of the season, right? You've said two things. I didn't know you'd said that. So if it's third, sack Arteta, and if Arne Slot finishes above him, sack Arteta. What is now the context? Are you really going to say it's the injuries and these bloody red cards and referees?
I don't think Arteta should be sacked because I don't think Arteta is the reason why we're in the position we're in this season.
So what is the reason?
I think the reason why we're in the position we're in this season is because of injuries, because of poor recruitment, and finally some unprecedented refereeing decisions that we haven't seen before in football. Those are the three reasons. Now, if you want to just bin the refereeing decisions and you just want to look at the actual things that everyone would agree with me on, I don't think Arteta has had a poor season as a manager managing this team. We've had some really good results. We've had some poor results, but I think some of the poor results have not been down to just the manager. It's been down to the personnel we've had, to our availability. Also, it's also been down to situations where you just look at some of the guys out there and you're saying some of them are giving the best that they can. Defensively, we've been playing as good as we have the last couple of years. Midfield has been chopped and changed with Odegaard being in and out of the team, Mikel Moreno missing games earlier in the season, Declan Rice having a foot injury at some point, and he's had to deal with the midfield injuries also. Plus, he's had to deal with the attack injuries recently, which has tanked and created our attack. But before that, we were up there as one of the best attacking teams in the league. So I'm looking at the whole picture, and I'm saying I don't think getting rid of Arteta at this moment in time makes sense for me, because I don't think he has been the main culprit or issue. I think Arteta's actually done a really good job keeping us in the title race for as long as he did, getting us third.
Let's just stop there. So man wanted to X the referee decisions and look at the recruitment and the injuries. Okay, cool. No worries. Why did Havertz get injured? Oh yeah, because your manager played him into the ground. Why did Saka get injured? Oh yeah, because this guy has been playing every competition and every minute of every match and being allowed to go out on international duty while the season's on, yeah, and play every minute for England, yeah, and been run into the ground. So this was coming by his management of those two players. Declan Rice, yeah, had a broken foot. Who continued to play him? Oh yeah, Mikel Arteta. When Ben White was injured, yeah, who continued to play Ben White at the start of the season when we was having stinkers? Oh yeah, your manager, Mikel Arteta, when he could have played Timber there. When he could have played Timber there and put Lewis Skelly on the left of our defense. He could have done that, but he continued to run Ben White into the ground and continued to get him injured. The same Mikel Arteta, yeah, that when we got Thomas Partey and he got injured on the pitch, pushed him back onto the pitch, yeah, to get re-injured, and then he had a series of getting re-injured and re-injured and re-injured. So in terms of the way that he's utilizes players, he was the cause for most of their injuries by playing players constantly into the ground to the point where they'll eventually get injured. And then once they were injured, playing them again and again and again while they were injured, instead of putting them out of the game and letting them recover. So when you talk about injuries, the injuries weren't something that we couldn't foresee. It was something that this filo da puta in Arteta already made it a problem by himself. He was the one that didn't go and get a right winger to compete with Saka. He was the one that, instead of burning Kai Havertz into the ground, that isn't good enough anyway, didn't go out there and get another striker after knowing that Jesus for the last 2 seasons have been injury prone, and you're going to have to heavily rely on Havertz because you can't rely on Jesus even since the last season. So don't come out with this injury bullcrap, because he ran players into the ground for them to become injury prone or to get a series of long-term injuries out of this season. So I'm not hearing that. Then you talk about the recruitment. You guys told us, yeah, you celebrated Nketiah getting a 100k contract, yeah. When Arteta brought in Zinchenko, Fabi Vieira, Lokonga, you said if Arteta wants him, I want him, yeah. You guys said Arteta needs certain profiles to play his football. You guys were the ones celebrating Sterling coming into the club, saying that, oh, we're going to see a new side of Sterling. You guys are the ones that said Arteta wanted Moreno to unlock Martinelli. You guys were the ones that said that Kivior's a good baller. You lot said that Calafiori is the Maldini of defenders. You guys are the ones that told us, yeah, that Odegaard don't need any competition because who's going to play second fiddle to Odegaard? And then when we got injury, the tune changed because all of a sudden we didn't have a number 10. What are we talking about here? When we buy players, you guys say it's Arteta's profile. He needs these players. Arteta's going to get it over the line. When we got Declan Rice and we bought him for over £100 million, you guys said, if Arteta wanted him, I wanted him. It was a great signing. And this is exactly what Arteta wants. When it's a signing that works well for Arsenal, you man say it's an Arteta signing and this is the players that he wants. When it's a bad signing, you start blaming Edu and now you're starting to blame the board. I'm not hearing it. I am not hearing this bucaria, bro. You man pick and choose when signings are Arteta's and when they're not Arteta's. And it's all based on whether they're good or not. You man were telling me that Zinchenko was Arteta signing. Zinchenko, Jesus, Calafiori, Moreno, Kivior. Do you know what I'm saying? Runnison, Calhine, Trusty. Do you know what I'm saying? All these man, don't come up with these excuses, bro. These men are all, these fools that are always trying to shield this manager. When the going looks good, you man say everything is Arteta. Arteta was the one that brought in the players. Arteta is the one developing the players. Arteta is the one, is his game plan. Arteta is the one that is transforming the club. Now that it's going sideways, it's all on the board. What are you chatting about? Bro, absolute rubbish, bro. This whole thing is on Arteta, bro. The whole thing is on Arteta.
Third in the Champions League with all the adversity we've had. And I do think we've had as tough as a season as majority of the seasons around us, majority of the teams around us. And you see Man City cratered and have fallen out of the Champions League, fallen out of the title race way before us. Look at Tottenham and how their season's going. We haven't had as bad as the season injury-wise as Tottenham, but we've had a lot of players out numbers-wise. If you look at the number of players out that we've had this season, and I do think the manager's done a decent job keeping us afloat. And it gets to a point where you face so much adversity, it's no longer on the manager. You're kind of playing with your hand tied behind your back, and I don't want to hold the manager accountable for things he can't control.
How can he not control playing players into the ground? How can you not control that? The manager is in charge of the starting 11. How can you not control that? How can you not control that? With all the players that he brought in that you guys said was Mikel Arteta signings, how can he not control the way that this team's been built? When him and Edu, when they were at the club, would sit there in Sky Sports saying that we build the team together. How is it? How is it that we neglected getting a clinical striker, getting a world-class number 10 to compete with Odegaard, getting a right winger that can actually compete with Saka, getting a centre-back that we can actually have cover for Saliba and Gabriel, which we still do not have? Do you know what I'm saying? Getting a replacement for Xhaka, because that midfield actually looked better with Xhaka in there. Not with defensive duties, yeah, but when he is allowed, the last season of Xhaka, when he's allowed to go forward, why didn't we go and get somebody that's better than Xhaka, but the same profile? Instead, we went and got Moreno, or we got Declan Rice that offers a lot defensively, but not a lot going forward. What are you talking about? How is this things that he could not control? Bro, these man, bro, I swear, the excuses, bro. He built this team, but yet it's not his fault. I've never seen a manager not being backed with 700 mil. Wow, bro, I can't believe it. Wow.
Okay, let me come with the Champions League. Let me ask you this question. Let's just say that injuries are the reason that we've struggled this season. Forget about referees for a minute. Forget about all the other stuff off the pitch. Forget about the fact that we're got board and owners that don't give a damn, that I think are as much of a disgrace, if not more, than Mikel Arteta. Which of the injuries do you think have affected us the most this season? From the list that we've had, which are the players that you think, oh my God, how the hell is he supposed to do anything? He's out. Who are the players? I guess it's Saka, Odegaard, Ben White. Are they the three?
Saka, Odegaard, Ben White, Havertz, and if I'm not mistaken, Declan Rice did get injured for a couple of games also.
Okay, yeah. Well, we had Declan Rice out of a broken toe for 2 games, didn't we? But
and
Martin,
he even played injured, so that affects you also.
Why couldn't we beat Newcastle without Saka? Man United, we lost. Why couldn't we beat Man United without Saka? Seems like we're a one-man team. Fulham, we drew to Fulham. Saliba and Partey were out. Why couldn't we beat Fulham with 2 defensive players out? It weren't even attackers. 2 defensive players were out against Fulham. We couldn't beat them. Aston Villa. We drew against Aston Villa. We couldn't beat Aston Villa without 2 defensive players and 1 attacker. Ben White was out, Partey was out, and Saka was out. and we was unable to beat Villa. 5 years deep, £700 million spent. We can't beat Aston Villa. Everton, we couldn't beat Everton with Partey and Ben White out. Only 2 defensive players, not attackers, defensive players. We couldn't beat Everton. Bournemouth, we had Saka and Odegaard out. Unable to beat them. Unable to beat them. But we've got a bench that can do a job, that has versatility. But we couldn't beat Bournemouth with Saka and Odegaard out. Looks like the bench ain't good enough. Looks like the bench ain't good enough. Chelsea, we had a full squad. Full squad. They're on phase 1. And we couldn't beat them. Bro, I'm not hearing this rubbish, bro. I'm not hearing this rubbish, bro. I am not hearing this rubbish. There's so many games that we had Saka available, and yet we still couldn't beat the opposition. Fulham, we had Saka, couldn't beat them. Everton, we had Saka, couldn't beat them. Do you know what I'm saying? Chelsea, we had Saka, couldn't beat them. What are we talking about here? Excuses upon excuses, man. All to protect this manager, bro. I'm tired of this Bukadia, man. I'm tired of this rubbish, bro. Run the next clip.
And he spent money. And he spent money on 31 players. And people are still saying he hasn't got the squad. So why has he had 31 players, 3 squads worth, that is, yeah, near enough. And we still don't have the squad that's good enough to compete. If I said to you, anybody, here's 31 players, go and buy.
How many players did Chelsea buy?
I don't have a bloody clue.
How many players have Manchester United bought since
with the same manager?
Okay, let me give you one who's had the same manager for a long time. How many players did what do you call it, Pochettino buy?
And you know what? That's a great example. That is a great example, and that is why Arteta and Pochettino are on the same bracket.
Okay.
Tell him, Dan. Exactly. That's why Arteta and Pochettino are on the same level.
How about this? Forget about that then. If you want to look at if you want to look at money spent and players brought in, I think Arsenal, for the money that we've spent, the 800 million that gets thrown at us, I think we've done a decent job considering the fact that Chelsea have spent $1 billion, Manchester United have spent more than us in that period, Tottenham have spent a lot of money, and they're nowhere near us competing
because we get bantered for how much they've spent. They get bantered for how much they've spent, right?
No, they don't. Actually, we get bantered for not winning the league for spending less than them.
We get bantered for
spending less than them.
We spent 200 million less.
Why is it, yeah? When Chelsea spend money, yeah, they must win. They must win stuff. When Man United spend money, they must win. But when Arsenal spend money, we don't have to win. What about everybody else? This is the point. Chelsea, bro, even Chelsea fans are criticizing what their ownership is doing. Ownership about how poor their ownership has run their money, because there's expectations when you spend money. The only difference is you're trying to avoid expectation onto your manager and onto your club after we've spent money. All 3 of us, it's not good enough. All of us look like clowns. Chelsea not been good enough. Man United have been clowns, and Arsenal have been clowns. Just because we're higher up the table, we don't look any closer to winning a league title. We were supposed to be the team that were ready to get that number 1 spot and win the title once Man City drop off. This season has proven exactly why I said that would not happen, because we're not prepared. The team ain't good enough. The team ain't good enough, which is why Liverpool are able to win the league. So what we